Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing another comic book review. Today we're looking at Marvel Rivals, book one. There's a second one of these that's coming out, but it's a slightly different situation going on. So this is based on the Marvel Rivals webtoon / webcomic that's available on Marvel Unlimited. If you buy this, you actually get access to those through a QR code that's inside this book. And this is written by Paul Allor, with art by Luca Claretti, Di Cunefi, I think is his name, and Joe Sabino. So this was originally a scroll comic, like an up and down scrolling comic. So there is some work done here to adapt it to the normal comic book style, right? And I think it's pretty well done. I jumped on the bandwagon with Marvel Rivals when it came out. I realized that I'm not good at video games, which is something I already knew. But I thought that Marvel Rivals would be a good video game to get into because it was new. It was quite similar to Overwatch, which is one of the few video games that I ever played sort of consistently. And, well, I got out of it pretty quickly, but I did enjoy my time with it. And the coolest thing about Marvel Rivals to me is the way in which the characters are designed. And so the artwork here manages to be pretty consistent with those designs while also being a nice and cartoony kind of webcomic style, right? So if nothing else, the artistic quality here is pretty good. You know, it might not be your favorite style, but it's one that I'm pretty familiar with as a fan of manga and anime and, you know, stuff that is related to it, which is what webcomics mostly are. They're usually Korean comic books. And I like the concept behind this, right? So the story here is actually pretty well done. It's pretty linear, it's pretty simple, but it is good enough, or actually better than you would expect out of something like this, which is really just trying to cash in on the hype behind Marvel Rivals, right? So I actually do recommend it if you guys are interested in it. I think it's fun. It is an action-based comic, you know, it is about fighting, and there's also enough interpersonal tension between the characters to really make it worth your time. Now, is it going to be the most deep or interesting storytelling? No, not really. It's pretty surface level, but it is worth it. However, I don't necessarily think that it is worth the $6 that I ended up paying for this. This is $7, or actually $6.99, and I don't know the page count for this. I think it's about 48 pages, which is you know, more than usual. Most Marvel comics are about 24 pages, so this is definitely twice as big. And within that context, it being $7 is actually cheaper than buying 2 single issues because most issues are between $4 and $5, right? But if we're still looking at the $2.99 cost, or actually, well, when I started collecting, they were at $3.99. So in that sense, it is worth it. But if you're looking at it as a single unit of entertainment, this is not necessarily worth $7, if that makes sense. I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here. Mostly that you should get this discounted if you can, in a back order or a back issue or something. You should probably not pay full price for this. Now, is that going to be likely that you're going to find this discounted? Probably not. It's probably going to be very hard for you to get discounted, but if you find a sale or whatever is happening at your stores near you, you should definitely get this, right? You could always get it digitally as well, but I don't really recommend that. I think that you should always try to get physical comics when you can. So let's actually talk about the plot line here. So it opens up with Galacta, kind of explaining, hey, I'm Galacta, I'm the daughter of Galactus, blah, 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 right? And then she explains that this version of the world, this Tokyo 2099 version of the world, has basically broken. Because of something that happened that was kind of unclear. And I think it's clear in the book, but I just can't remember it. Galacta is acting as a watcher for this situation, right? Basically, the web of life has been disabled or actually been damaged by an attack that was done. Incursions are happening at the same time, and so the multiverse borders are kind of weakening, right? And this is allowing other characters to show up from other versions of the universe. And so there's these two characters, these two Spider-Man characters, or Spider-Man-based characters called the Master Weaver and Spider-Zero. And these two characters are kind of in charge of protecting the web of life, which is a concept from Spider-Man comics. And the Weaver has a plan based around, you know, just basically developing more resources to shore up the defenses of the multiverse wall, right? Whereas Spider Zero thinks that the right way to fix this is to turn the web of life into a cybernetic or a cyber web kind of situation, right? Kind of combining the idea of the internet as this World Wide Web into the concept of the web of life, right? The threads of that are spun into fate, right? So I think this is cool. It's kind of a traditional versus like an industrial versus a digital kind of concept, or analog versus digital kind of concept, which I like. And so these two characters are kind of the players in a sense, right? They each have a plan to fix this, and they need characters to implement this plan, right? And so they call forth a group of heroes, and so Spider-Man is working for the Weaver, and Penny Parker is working for Spider Zero, right? And they're the leaders of their teams, and then they're fighting against each other, right? And so we follow these heroes as they try to, execute the plan in order to get the web of life back into, clarity, or back into its kind of alignment, as it were, right? And throughout that, we get a bunch of interactions between the characters, right? Thor is very excited about Jeff the Shark. He thinks it's funny, and he treats him as this funny little child warrior. Namor interacts with Jeff, and he's like, Jeff, you are my subject. We should come together to make this plan in order to, take over this land, right? And Captain America treats Jeff like a soldier and is very soldierly about the way he takes care of him, right? Luna Snow is very interested in Jeff because she thinks he's cute. Peter and Penny have the situation where Penny thinks that Peter is her dad, but Peter is like, no, I'm just an alternate version of you. I'm not your dad, but I am older than you, so you can look at me as your older brother if you want. And she's like, oh, no, I'm good, never mind, right? And there's these kind of interactions between these characters, right? And at some point, Thor gets blasted away, and Squirrel Girl shows up, right? And she takes over his spot, which is kind of the game mechanic where you can switch heroes, right? Mid-game. And so as the characters are going through all of these interactions and trying to, get to the place where the web of life is, the characters realize, hey, maybe this is not the right way to do this, right? And almost by accident, they end up using both tactics, right? The analog tactic and the digital tactic, in order to solve the issue. And so they shore up the defenses of this place, they fix the web of life, and they manage to win, or they manage to finish the game, as it were. And so this is kind of the end of this story. And we'll have another different story that focuses on another different team of characters in another place, trying to basically solve the same issue, right? Because that's kind of the concept here, where these characters are both are kind of opposites to each other. They're not necessarily against each other, but they have to fight in order to achieve this goal. And this goal is whatever the Galacta tells them is the goal at that point, right? And so this was pretty fun. I liked it. I thought that it was well executed. I thought that the development of the story was good. I think that it was very clear what the point was, and it allowed for a lot of flexibility for the characters, which is great because it allowed a lot of fun interactions, which is one of the other fun things about Marvel Rivals, right? So overall, this book was great. I really recommend it. I think it's fun. Like I said, though, try to not pay cover price for it. I think it should cost less than that, and I recommend that you find a way to pay less than cover price for it. So yeah, those are my thoughts here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.